All right, John, here we go.
You are watching The Cutting Edge. This is Now You See TV. Welcome. It is Monday, January 13th, 2020. Time is 7:01 Central Time. I know we all try to get that together. John lives on the Central Time. I live on the Eastern Time, and we're always doing this. But thank you for watching this morning. I am joined by my host, Jon Pounders. Welcome, Jon Pounders, to The Cutting Edge.
Thank you, man. We're live. I've got my coffee. I'm ready to go. It's early in the morning. We've got an awesome special guest, like you said, Odette Operman, who is a private investigator, worked on major cases that all of you have heard of, and also is a radio host. And we are going to be discussing some really interesting things in politics right now because, first off, as most of you guys know how I feel about most of this stuff, I think it's so staged. I think it's a tabloid-type soap opera thing that they're showing us, but with interesting news that's been going on recently, and with this whole Epstein thing kind of just being swept under the rug, I figured me and John wanted to talk about this, and the first person that came to mind was Ed on this subject.
That was the first thing we were talking about, and I'm going to bring it on in just a second. We were talking about this morning, most all of British newspapers and headlines have been on Meghan and Harry and the whole ordeal going over there. Our question this morning, as we were looking at the headlines in Great Britain, is where's Prince Andrew? Where's the story on Maxwell or Ghislaine Maxwell? And of course, our thinking is this a subterfuge away from that story? So I'm glad Ed is able to join us this morning.
Yeah, and so, Ed, we're just going to bring you on, and we're going to just kind of talk about, you know, what's going on, and we'll bring up several articles that are going on in the news. We'll talk about that, and then we'll kind of get into the more, I guess, aspects of Maxwell, because I know you've been doing interviews recently. You've got some cutting news that really nobody knows yet. And so we'll talk a little bit about that. But Ed, welcome to the show, man.
Hey, guys. Thank you so much. I really appreciate being woken up early in the morning to come on the radio. And thank you, guys. I always enjoy it with you guys.
Yeah, man. I know the last show we did was really interesting, and of course it got shadow banned. It got a lot of views initially, and then all of a sudden just dropped out. And I think I know why. We mentioned a company in there that I'm not going to mention in this show because I don't want to get it shadow banned.
What you did the last time? Why didn't you just mention?
I mentioned the name, and that's enough. You know, just mentioning that company. So, anyways, we won't mention that company, and we'll try not to get this show flagged so a lot of people can see it because I think it's going to be interesting. The last show we did together was super interesting, I thought, and you've done a lot of interviews in between now and then that have been phenomenal. Really, I haven't got a chance to listen to all of them, but I have seen the guests that you've had and the topics. So, yeah, and if you want to tell people any, your website, I think it's opermanreport.com. If I'm correct, it's in the description if anybody wants to check it out. So, John, read to us some stuff going on. We got interesting stuff going on in England over the pond over there. We've got some. The Queen is upset. Prince Harry's leaving home, leaving the nest. We've got Prince Andrew on the outs because he's a pedophile. We've got it's
a crazy thing because our discussion this morning leading up, and I'm glad Ed is able to join us this morning, is all the tabloids and front page news of Great Britain. And it's, of course, they're all up in arms about Harry and Meghan leaving the royal family. And one of the things that, has intrigued me about this is I don't put it past the royal family to do a little watch my hand while I'm doing something down here. And of course, Prince Andrew has been such an embarrassment to the Queen. I would think that they're trying anything or any means to direct away from the charges that's been against him. And doing something like this, I'm like, I don't put it past them to put Harry up and Meghan and just make this huge so it kind of buries the story of Prince Andrew and Ghislaine Maxwell. Some of the headlines coming out says, this one comes out of the Daily Mail. You can go to thedailymail.com. You can find this. It says, Prince Harry and William break cover, together denying bullying claims as livid Prince Philip is driven away from Sandringham minutes before the Queen hosts high-stakes summit. And they get to this part where they're so intrigued about the Queen's earpiece hearing aid that they take close-up pictures. But it's all about Harry and Meghan right now, and I could care less. But it has completely buried the story of Prince Andrew and what's going on here in the United States with the trials that are coming out. And some of the things I think Ed mentioned before the show, there's pictures of it coming out about Clinton. And of course, I'm looking forward to hearing his thoughts. Would the Royals do something like this to cover up, to hide, to push away this story that's affecting both countries?
I
think the question is, why wouldn't they?
Guys, I'm sitting here cracking up, okay? Let me tell you something. The idea, you're saying that the theory is that they're putting Harry up there to clean up the show because they're embarrassed by Prince Andrew, right? See, so that tells me you guys aren't aware of the behavior of Harry when he used to come here to Vegas, okay?
I can imagine there's a behavior going on that we would.
There's pictures. There's pictures of him naked in the hotel room with a bunch of naked women. You can find them if you really look for them now, but they were around all over the place. Yeah. Back around the time of the Tiger Woods case, okay, when I was working on the Tiger Woods case and I was doing all the Tiger Woods cell phones, I was vetting out all the women coming forward claiming they were Tiger Woods mistresses in order for them to be represented by my client, Gina Rodriguez, at the time. She was also my agent. So all the women involved with Tiger Woods were all escorts, okay? I hate to say, because some of them were very, very nice girls, and maybe a couple of them weren't, but the ones that I dealt with were. Okay, or the ones around it were. And so right around that time when Harry came to town here, this guy was scandalous. So I heard all the rumors and all the gossip. I didn't have a radio show back then. I couldn't go out and talk about it. But I did try to get some of these women to come forward. We could sell their story. And no one would touch it. Everybody was in fear. So there's a whole intimidating aura around this kid. When he was a kid, he was a young kid too. I
can imagine, man. I mean, these people are all powerful. You can't even arrest. I mean, we can't do anything about whatever they do. I mean, they're pretty much immune to pretty much. It seems like everything, as far as I can tell. What is the rules there, John? I know you keep up with the Parliament and you keep up with all that stuff, but.
Well, if you go to the official royal website, they tell you how the money is transferred back to the royal family. But of course, we know the secret trading that's going on during the night as cars are going into the palace. And of course, they're doing secret trading. There's all kinds of backstories on that. The rules are they have some kind of duty that they're performing, and they're upset that Harry's leaving. And apparently, 10 minutes before the princess's birthday party, William's wife's birthday party, they dropped the bombshell that they're going to leave the royal family. They want to reside in Northern America. Of course, Canada came out this morning and say, Justin Trudeau says, we'll pay for the security. And I'm going, what? Anyways, the Queen is upset because it's a royal family. They're calling it a business. And of course, they say they have no political power. They have no political bias either way. Tories, whether it's Tories or Labour or Green Party, whatever it is. However, law is signed in after Parliament votes for it. It goes straight to the Queen, and she gives her okay or not okay. And of course, I'm thinking that's going to change when Charles takes over. However, they've got issues right now. One issue that's covering up the other one. And of course, Ed is right. I remember those pictures of Prince Harry. But I believe their political power goes deeper and much more than the public is led on to know.
Well, that kind of brings us to Maxwell, right, Ed? I mean, Maxwell's father, what is the background on his father? I know we've talked about it before, but just to give people kind of a understanding about who this lady is and how deeply she's tied in with Epstein, I think is important for people to understand.
Yeah, I've been interviewing Stephen Hoffenberg, who's Epstein's former business partner at the Tower Financial Company there. And he also used to own the New York Post for a little while there, too. Now, so he's been giving his scoop on the whole Maxwell family and stuff like that. Now, it turns out that Robert Maxwell, Ghislaine's father, was Mossad, and he ran a bunch of British tabloids as well that were taken over, by the way, interesting, after his death, because he had this very mysterious death, boating explosion, drown, whatever went on over there, God knows. And so what I'm hearing from Hoffenberg is that, anyway, after he was killed or died, Rupert Murdoch took over his newspaper empire. And Rupert Murdoch also took over Hoffenberg's New York Post. So Murdoch seems to be out there in the corner, in the edges there, coming in to swoop things up. But Maxwell was a blackmailer, a spy, involved in a lot of crimes, also some fraud, too, with stealing from pensions. His daughter was Ghislaine Maxwell. Her boyfriend was Epstein. And what I'm hearing from Hoffenberg is, who knew all these people at the time, is that when Maxwell died, Epstein And Ghislaine Maxwell took over all his blackmail dirt, and that's what really put them into business and put them on the map. But even prior to that, Epstein was working with Mossad, Israeli intelligence, with Adnan Khashoggi and with Ari Ben Menashe and all these characters, Iran-Contra and all things like that, too, as a very, very young man. So their background on that goes deep.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, when you look at what happened here, and we were talking about this before the show, but how in the world has she not been questioned? How has she not been charges brought against her? What in the world is going on?
Yeah, well, according to Hoffenberg, that he believes she's saying through her spokesperson Goldman that she's untouchable. She has enough blackmail dirt on everybody in the world that she has nothing to worry about, and she's being protected by the Israeli government and the U.S. government. Now, when Hoffenberg came on my show a week ago, he had a theory that she was already dead, and that theory made sense to me. And my theory, I don't know if we've discussed it before, is that Epstein was walked out of that prison. They let him out, and this whole thing.
Yeah, we talked about that on the last show,
and I believe that even more now, talking about because what happened was a couple of days before he got out of there, whatever happened to him, he had signed over his estate. It's only a portion of his estate, by the way, $600 million to be put into this trust to be run by his longtime attorney and friend Darren Endyke. $600 million, and I see that now as he created a payoff, a slush fund to pay Ghislaine Maxwell's legal fees, other people's legal fees, and to pay settlements on these victims that are still coming forward. And kind of, let's keep a lid on the pot there, where there's $600 million for you guys, but there's another $100 million that his brother owns in a building, just one little piece of property. We know this guy had way more money than that. So here's what I see happening. You got in June, Trump goes to England there. He meets with Prince Andrew. You see them laughing. Prince Andrew's meeting with Ivanka. About a month later, Epstein gets arrested. Big show thing, right? They put him on. By the way, the FBI also did this thing where they put up a poster saying, hey, if you have any information, call this 800 number. What happened to all those people calling that 800 number? Where are they today? What's going on with that? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Call this number. Come on down. I'm going to take you on a boat ride, We're going to go fishing. Come back, So, well, okay, there's that. So then Epstein puts together the slush fund. They make the deal. They walk him out of that jail. Even Hoffenberg spent time in that jail, too. I've visited that jail. That jail's a corrupt jail. It's one of the most corrupt jails in the country. They walk him out of there. They lose the video cameras. They lose the tapes. They lose the logs. They lose everything. And the dog came in and ate all the paperwork, Well, it's hysterical. And then Maxwell. I'm sorry.
So what was up with all the jumpsuits in the cell? Because we all saw those fabricated pictures coming out saying there was a bunch of jumpsuits in his jail cell.
Excellent
and the
question.
Autopsy. And I'm a 20-year vet critical care nurse, and I was looking at that laceration around his neck, and that doesn't follow suit with me, especially the hyoid bone. But what was up with all those jumpsuits I never got an answer.
Well, I don't know. Are you talking about for the jumpsuits for what?
Well, they showed the cell. They did a picture of the cell and a picture of his neck.
Right.
A picture of, I guess, the jumpsuit that he used, or the jumpsuits, and the cell itself had jumpsuits all over the place.
Oh, I didn't even notice. I didn't notice that. But I'm thinking this. Okay, so just hear me out here. So if you're blackmailing somebody, let's put yourself in the mind of Epstein. You're blackmailing the most powerful people in the world. Do they think? Do people really think that his death is going to all of a sudden get rid of all this blackmail? Is he stupid enough to carry all that information around with him and not be able to easily distribute it out to whoever he needs to distribute it out to before, to keep himself alive? Because otherwise he's been dead a long time ago, right?
No.
If this is the case.
That's the thing. See, you got to understand. He was blackmailing. He wasn't a freelancer out there blackmailing on his own with a heartbeat that anybody could stop at a moment's notice. He was working for Israeli intelligence and U.S. intelligence. He was renting a building from the State Department and releasing it. We know that part for a fact. So it's not like he was a lone guy out there like me out there, trying to blackmail people. A shady guy. This is a guy working for international intelligence agencies from a very young age.
Right.
Now, you got the other John, okay? You got to listen to the show I just did with Hoffenberg coming up this Friday, because we talk about the jumpsuits, not the prison uniforms, clothing, because that's highly unusual, okay? And I've been to that jail way back in the